going to do a personal reading history. And on this sheet of paper that I'm going to give you are a few questions about your personal views about your reading history. This is a very important part of a reading apprenticeship classroom because if you know what your history is, you can impact your future as a reader. So what I would like you to do is to take a few moments, fill this paper out quietly and by yourself as your individual response. Then I'll give you time to talk about what you've written on your paper with your table, okay? Any questions? Okay. Share some of your strengths, share some of your weaknesses, please. Talk about what you bring to the table as a reader when you have read. It's really important that you include what helped you become a really good reader and incidences when you felt that you were not such a good reader. I was a prolific reader, and then I remember one time when I got to college, and there was a very difficult psychology book that the professor had assigned to us, and it was like reading in another language. Although I could read novels and science articles very, very well, the psychology textbook was absolutely just brutal. And I remember feeling out of place, not qualified to be in that class. And that really impacted how I felt about doing the reading assignments. That's one example of how I felt in my reading.
It's not my language, it's my second language, and I never went to school before, like since like 25 years maybe, and I did good on my language, but not in reading. I even don't understand a lot of words. I even know what it means, and so I'm trying. I'm looking at my book. And I write some of the words, and later I'm going to dictionary and looking for the meaning of the words. So it's hard.
I think some of my weaknesses is like I'm slow. I feel like I read slow, and then when I do, I get frustrated, and I kind of just guess at it. So instead of like actually fully reading the word, I'm just like, oh, it looks like that, and it's that, and then I kind of just skip forward and kind of speed it along.
One of my weaknesses is that if I don't know the words, I won't take the time to look at the dictionary because I'm either so into the book that I'd rather just keep going instead of writing the word down and looking it up later. And another one is sometimes I'll read a whole chapter before I realize that I'm not really paying attention. Like I did not pay attention to the whole thing and I have to go back to it or just say
Some of you I might call on you and give you a cue from what I've heard when I've been walking around listening to you table sharing. Okay, when you guys share at your tables and I see heads nodding, that reminds me that as human beings we're sharing in this experience about what it feels like to be a reader, what it feels like to have really good reading skills at times, and then challenges to our reading at other times. So let's talk about it. What did you discover about yourself and about people at your table about some of the reading strengths that you possess? Talk to me. Yes, James.
They're strong in their language and they're having, but then they're having a little difficulties on transitioning into English.
So the person may be strong as a reader in the first language but struggle in English, right?
It seems like everyone's pretty interested in reading. So that's for a start.
People are interested in reading. Why do you think so?
Because there's information people don't know that are in books, and they want to get to the information.
Okay. So it's information driven.
Yes.
Okay. Sean, at your table, what did you come up with for strengths?
For strengths, I found that they are, for one thing, they're very quickly improving on things that they didn't know before. Bach was telling me that when he first started learning English, he didn't know how to make things flow very well. Using periods, commas, breaks in sentences, he's very quickly learned how to use
Vocabulary,
them.
you skip words. Does anybody else do that?
Yes.
Why? Why do you skip words?
No, not skip, but because we don't know what it means in the book, and yeah, like when we read the novel, and I know it's really interesting because 16 in a row, but sometimes we don't know the words. Some of them we miss it, and what is that? I'm writing and looking in the dictionary, and go back again, and after I understand, and it's interesting. But
In English, do you need to understand every single word to generally understand something?
no, now, because you teach us how the words go with the sentence.
Ah, so we use context to help us, don't we?
Yes.
How did you really get to be a reader? Have you ever thought about that? How did you become the reader that you are today? Let's talk about that. Now, Bach, when you were a kid, who taught you how to read?
That.
Well, my mother, she taught me how to read my language, like native language. I mean, my father, he doesn't want me to read.
Your father didn't want you to read.
No, because he said, like, kids, when they read and they talk, you know.
Oh, if you learn how to read, you have a big mouth.
Yeah, big mouth, talk all the time, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't like that because they think kids, when they talk too much and they don't have respect with somebody.
To read by yourself, you can always read to your kids, so as to get them into the habit of reading as well.
Great, great. And you should ask them how they're learning to read in school. You should ask your kids, how are you learning to read in school? What are the teachers teaching you? It's very, very interesting when you start asking those questions.
And also, most kids that are in school have to read for like 20 to 30 minutes a day, and parents will just send them to their room to read instead of actually sitting down with their kids and have them read to you. So that helps as well.
One of the things that I tell people who have children that are at reading age, put them on the kitchen counter and have them read to you while you're doing other things. Have them be present. Have them read loudly with expression to you while you're cooking dinner. Okay? It can really support their reading to understand what is being read or assigned to you. You pretended to understand. At that time, you went along and you acted like, yeah, I get it. And then you think about, I didn't really understand that. What could have helped you? Vocabulary, jargon, what would you need to be a better reader at that time? Let me give you an example. How many of you have filled out car insurance paperwork? Did you read it?
Yeah, I read it.
Did you understand it?
I don't think whoever wrote that understood that.
So, do you think that most of Americans read their car insurance policies?
I think if it's over 3 pages, I don't think anyone reads it for the most part.
Until they have to,
Until
right?
they have to.
I have students who can write, but they can't read very well. So I encourage them to use their writing to help them on their reading. You see what I'm saying? They work together. Reading and writing go together. When you know yourself, you know when you need help. And when you're in college, you don't want to wait too long. You're going to have to also admit, and I heard this when I walked to the tables, everybody's in the same boat. We all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. And many of those are similar. Sometimes it's vocabulary, sometimes it's attention, sometimes it's sentence structure, sometimes you just don't like to read science. But you have to if you're going to go into nursing, right? So you learn to accommodate it. So by doing the personal reading history, it's a good chance for you to think about yourself as a reader and to look at what you're doing when you do read. You need to think about what you're doing when you read. And if you do that, you can help yourself improve. And you can hear, like Anna Lynn was saying, that if she doesn't know, she just asks. Michele was saying if she doesn't know, she asks anybody, even a stranger on the bus. And we're reading in a community, and that's very, very good and very positive.